Red Rising in-depth summary. Now, Red Rising is the first book in the Red Rising trilogy, and if you're just looking for a reminder of all the important events in this book before you go on to Golden Sun, or if you just want a reminder of how everything started, then this is the video for you. Now, obviously, this is going to be an incredibly spoiler-filled video for Red Rising. I'm going to go throughout the whole book and explain the plot, so if you don't want any spoilers, click away now. And secondly, obviously, I can't cover every single event, but I will cover all of the major events in this book. And thirdly, I simply don't have time to make this video look incredibly beautiful and so on, like, I don't know, like captioning words would do or something. So I do apologize that the visuals don't really match up. But the main purpose of this video is just to give you a reminder of what has happened. So I'll just add some random B footage to this video while I explain what happened in this book. I hope that's okay. Alright, enjoy, and if you love this, I might do a summary for book 2 as well. Part 1, Slave. The book starts with us being introduced to Darrow, who is a helldiver of Lycos, which is a mining colony under the surface of Mars. Now, the Red Rising trilogy is set in a futuristic universe where people are classed into different colors depending on their skill and class. Now, Darrow, he is a red, and reds are primarily manual laborers and miners and are seen as the bottom of society. Now, Darrow and all the other reds are tasked to mine helium-3, which is a fuel source that is being used to terraform the planet of Mars for the other colors and classes. Now, the pivotal event in part 1 in this book is where Darrow experiences being cheated of a price of goods, which is awarded to the most productive reds, which basically encouraged his wife, Io, to sing an illegal protest song against the enslavement of the reds. Now, due to the act of rebellion from his wife, Io, she is sentenced to death by hanging by the Mars Arch-Governor Nero A. Augustus, which leads to immense grief and pain for Darrow. Now, before this event, Io has encouraged Darrow to rise up against the system, but he has shown very little interest in this cause. Now, Io is killed and left hanging there as a public sign of shame, and against the rules, Darrow decides to cut down his wife's body and bury her, which is a grave crime that ultimately leads to Darrow being killed, or so we are left to believe. Part 2, Reborn. However, although Darrow believes his life has ended, he awakens later and it is revealed that his uncle Nerul faked Darrow's death and delivered him to Dancer and Harmony, who are both members of Sons of Eris. Now, Sons of Eris is an underground rebellion group consisting of Reds waging war on society and trying to bring about fundamental change. Now, Dancer and Harmony take Darrow above ground, allowing him to see that he and all the other Reds have been lied to for generations. Contrary to their beliefs, Reds are not readying and terraforming Mars for the rest of humanity, but instead have been used as slaves for the rest of society. Now, this realization makes Darrow realize he has to get vengeance and bring his wife's dreams of a brighter future to reality, and therefore decides to join the rebellion group Sons of Eris. Now, Darrow is given the mission to infiltrate the highest ranks of society, which is controlled by the Ghouls, and to bring it down from within. Now, Darrow then meets a carver called Mickey, who gives Darrow new physical and enhanced abilities and changes his appearance to make him look like a gold. Now, simultaneously, Darrow is being taught by a pink called Matteo about all the customs and cultures of the Golds, so he can become a part of the Gold Society. After being transferred to a Gold lookalike, Darrow is giving his first test, which is an entrance exam to one of Gold's most prestigious schools, the Institute. Amazingly, Darrow performs incredibly well and only misses one question. However, while being examined, Darrow starts to realize that maybe not all Golds are as evil as he thought, as he meets another Gold called Julian Abarca, and they quickly become good friends. Now, after being allowed to join the Institute, Darrow is drafted into House Mars. Now, there are a total of 12 houses, and each house has 100 members, and after joining House Mars, Darrow is told that he was ranked 9th out of 1200 other candidates, making him one of the very best candidates the Gold have to offer. Now, after joining House Mars, he meets some of his new housemates, which include Julian, Severo, Cassius, and Titus, among others. Now, in order for Darrow to progress to the next stage of the Institute, he has to complete a stage called the Passage, which is a test where students are forced into a room with one other student from their own house. Now, the rules are simple. 2 students enter and only 1 is allowed to leave. Now, to Darrow's shock and dismay, he is matched with his friend Julian. Shocked by the dilemma, Darrow decides to kill Julian in order to progress to the next stage. Part 3. Gold. After completing this stage, Darrow and the other students realized that the passage matched the top 50 highest ranked students in each house with the lowest ranked students, in hopes of allowing the strongest to survive. Now Darrow notices that Julian ranked number 99th into the House of Mars, which is the reason he met him in the passage. Now Julian's brother, Cassius, and remember this character because he will become important for the series later on, he becomes enraged with grief after hearing his brother has been killed. However, Darrow never tells anyone who he met in the passage, which allows him to become friends with Cassius. After completing 2 stages at the Institute, Darrow and the other members get to meet House Proctor Fitchner A. Barca. Now the students are told that they will be given a fortress and will have to go to war with the other 11 houses, and to win they must make one house out of many, which is usually done by capturing slaves, and the games then finally start. Now shortly after the game has started, Darrow captures a site, which leads him to being given the nickname the Reaper. While House Mars should be united, the house fractures into 4 different tribes, one led by Titus, one led by Antonio, one by Cassius and Darrow, and the last one is composed by Severo alone. Now, during the games, Darrow becomes even closer to Cassius and plants this idea in his head that it was actually Titus that killed Julian, not Darrow. Now, as the games progress, the relations in the House of Mars break down even further, and a fight ensues between Darrow's faction and Titus's faction. Now, Darrow witnesses the shocking tactics used by Titus that include torture, rape, and even murder. Now, this battle ends with Darrow's faction being evicted from the fortress. Now, after being evicted from his own fortress and not being able to defeat Titus, Darrow decides to get in touch with another house, the House Minerva, and it is at this point he meets Mustang. Now Mustang is described as being both very beautiful and intelligent, and she instantly catches Darrow's attention. However, Darrow is able to trick Mustang and her tribe into invading and taking Castle House Mars, and thereby imprison Titus and his tribe in the process. However, during this battle, Darrow and Cassius fall into a freezing lake, and they both expect to die since they're both trapped in this frozen lake. However, fortunately, Severo he shows up and rescues both Darrow and Mustang. Now, this act of heroism from Severo is the start of a friendship between Darrow and Severo becomes one of Darrow's most loyal lieutenants. It is here we hear about Severo's faction, also called the Howlers, a group of low drafts that wear wolfskins. Now, various events occur, and ultimately Titus is defeated and imprisoned, which ultimately end with Darrow being crowned the main leader of House Mars, which is a significant victory for Darrow. However, there is still a long way to go before Darrow can claim the ultimate victory, as Mustang tells Darrow about a boy that is wreaking havoc in the south, who is called the Jackal. Now, after capturing Titus, Darrow notices that Titus acts differently than other ghouls, and he comes to the shocking realization that Titus is actually not a gold, but he's actually a red, being disguised as a gold just like Darrow is. However, Darrow cannot break his cover or show him mercy due to the risk of his mission being uncovered. Now, shortly after this realization, Cassius kills Titus. Now, Darrow's next strategic step is to team up with House Diana in hope of capturing House Minerva and all those troops. However, during this mission, Mustang is able to escape, and Darrow allows her to escape since he knows that she will be murdered if she is captured. Moreover, Darrow is betrayed by former allies of Titus, and they try to kill him, but Darrow catches on to their plan and makes an escape. Now, while this is happening, Cassius discovers from Jackal's lieutenant that Darrow was the one that killed Julian, not Titus, and he challenges Darrow to a duel as a revenge for the murder of his brother. Now, Cassius defeats Darrow and leaves him to die, and thereby Cassius takes control over House Mars. Part 4. Reaper. Although Cassius thinks Darrow is dead, he is rescued and nursed back to health by Mustang before it is too late. Now, Mustang has been hiding since her house the house Minerva, fell. Now both Darrow and Mustang are outcasts and are in a very vulnerable situation, and therefore strike an alliance and go out and recruit other wanderings, oathbreakers and slaves. However, rather than recruiting oathbreakers and making them slaves, as most of the other houses would have done, Darrow and Mustang allowed them to be free people in hopes of making them loyal. During this time, Darrow discovers that Jackal's real name is not the Jackal, but is actually Adrius O. Augustus, and he is therefore the son of the Arch-Governor of Mars, Nero A. Augustus. Now this is shocking news to Darrow, since this means that Jackal's father, Nero A. Augustus, is the same person that ordered his wife Io to be put to death. Moreover, Darrow realizes that the game is ultimately rigged in favor of the Jackal to ensure that he wins. Now Darrow and Mustang start to build back their power, and they free many of the slaves of House of Mars and proceed to take House Ceres' fortress. However, that following night, Darrow hears that Tactus, a former slave, has raped another girl from House Ceres. Horrified by the action of one of his own members, Darrow lashes Tactus and tells his whole faction that any crime committed by his faction is shared by all of them, which makes Darrow's army become increasingly fanatic and loyal. Now later, Darrow learns from Fitchner that many of the Proctor have a considerable stake in the Jackal winning, and they will happily kill Darrow if necessary, and Fitchner advises Darrow to keep his head low and just survive the games. However, Darrow ignores Fitchner's warning and locks him up in one of Apollo's cells. Now this prompts the other Proctors to attack Darrow, and a long battle ensues, ultimately ending with Darrow taking House of Apollo. Now Darrow is on a winning streak and moves on to House Jupiter with the aim of winning this house and then only having to focus on the Jackal. Darrow meets very little resistance at House Jupiter and encounters Lucian at this house, who is claiming to be the Pharisee of House Jupiter. However, Darrow confronts Lucian and tells him he knows Lucian's real identity, the Jackal. Now, various events ensue, leading to a chase where Darrow kills Proctor Apollo and learns that Mustang has been kidnapped. Moreover, Darrow acknowledges for the first time that he has feelings for Mustang. Now, Darrow storms the residence of the Proctors called Mount Olympus and captures all of them and defeats Proctor Jupiter. Now, nearing the victory, Darrow sends Mustang out to capture the escaped Jackal. However, it is at this point that Darrow learns from Fitchner that Mustang is not who he thinks she is. Mustang is actually Virginia A. Augustus, the Jackal's twin sister. After hearing this news, Darrow is confident Mustang will betray him, and he starts to prepare for the ultimate last battle against the Jackal and Mustang. Now, before the final confrontation, Darrow defeats House Jupiter, who were besieging House Mars, which gives Darrow a significantly larger army. Moreover, Darrow is confronted by Cassius, who is still bitter over Darrow killing his brother Julian, and he declares a blood feud. Cassius swears that the next time he sees Darrow, only one will leave. Now, shortly after, in a rather surprising turn of events, Mustang arrives with a bound and naked Jackal, meaning that Mustang didn't betray Darrow as he expected, and Mustang thereby proves her loyalty to Darrow, and this act makes Darrow the official winner of the games. After the games, everyone is expecting Darrow to ask Lorne A. Argus to be his mentor. However, Darrow decides to become a Lancer for House Augustus and the Arch-Governor, since he knows that this will help him better reach his ultimate goal of bringing down the Ghouls and the society. And that brings us to the end of the first book in the Red Rising trilogy. I hope you have enjoyed this in-depth summary, and if you want a summary for book 2, definitely let me know and I might do that. Thank you so much for watching. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video and got some inspiration to read more books. Now, if you want to support me in any way, then you can check out my Patreon. I have different tiers and you'll get different benefits depending on what tier you support. Some of the benefits include getting your name in my videos, voting rights on my next feed, getting a special role on my Discord server, getting access to one Patreon exclusive video a month, or even art cards and bookmarks signed by my wife and me. Most of the money goes to hiring an editor to do a couple of videos for me a month, which basically allows me to post high quality content content more frequently. But yeah, thank you so much for watching and God bless.